Welcome to the Scottish Rite Journal podcast, an audio presentation of the Scottish Rite Journal, brought to you by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. This week's article is Illuminating Our History, the La Candeur Lodge Minutes Book, Part 2. The Journey Continues in Charleston, South Carolina, by Brother Maynard Edwards, 33rd degree, and read by Brother Hank Griffin, 32nd degree KCCH, and comes from the November-December 2025 issue of the Scottish Rite Journal.
My talk with historian and author Brother Joe Vegas about the need to retrieve the First Minutes Book of La Candeur Lodge in Charleston, South Carolina, 1796, sparked several questions. Who were the so-called 11 gentlemen of Charleston? What brought them together? What became of them after they founded our beloved Scottish Rite? Where did these high degrees come from? Are there any original documents in Charleston we can rescue? After talking with our House of the Temple production team and consulting with our historians, I made up my mind that these stories we really needed to tell were simply too big for a YouTube video. To do them justice and solve a few Masonic mysteries, we would need to plan for a documentary covering the early formation of the Supreme Council. Specifically, we needed to learn more about the original 11 gentlemen. On the advice of Brother Vegas and Arturo de Hoyos, 33rd degree GC Grand Archivist and Grand Historian, I started by building a timeline of the information I already had. We have some established facts about the birth and early lives of these remarkable brothers, and obviously, we know where these 11 men were in May 1801. Yet, after about 1804, things start to get a little fuzzy. Next, I wanted to pinpoint where they ended up. If I could find their final resting places, I could possibly fill in the middle with some research and a little luck. As illustrious S. Brent Morris, 33rd degree GC, once told me, if you have A and you have C, well, it's much easier to figure out B. While a few of the men returned to France, where they rest today, most of the 11 gentlemen are, conveniently, still in Charleston. Frederick Dalco, the first man to receive a patent for the 33rd degree, rests in St. Michael's Churchyard, alongside a few founding fathers, and a stone's throw from the site where the Scottish Rite was founded. Dr. James Moultrie rests in St. Philip's Cemetery under a special stone laid in 2001 by the Supreme Council. The 4 Jewish members of the Supreme Council, brothers de Levine, de Lamata, Alexander, and Levy, are all in the Cumming Street Cemetery, one of the oldest Jewish cemeteries in the South. Yet one important brother's final resting place was conspicuous in its absence. Our first Grand Commander and friend of George Washington, Colonel John Mitchell. In the many histories of the Rite and of Colonel Mitchell himself, his final resting place is unknown. This was a mystery that gnawed at me. Historic Charleston is not that big a place. Mitchell had to be somewhere there, right? I started calling the brothers I had met in Charleston who were eager to help with this ambitious project. I called Brother Andy Albright, 32nd degree KCCH, who handles education for the Valley, and I gave him a full rundown of my plan. I told him what I knew and what I needed to know. And soon he connected me with several other brothers and friends to help me fill in the gaps in my timeline. I was shortly on my way back to Charleston. One of the friends Andy connected me with was Anita Rosenberg, historian for the Kahal Kadash Beth Elohim Synagogue. This synagogue is where the 4 Jewish members of our first Supreme Council were important members, and it is also the congregation that manages access to the Cumming Street Cemetery. Anita was eager to share her incredible knowledge of these 4 early Supreme Council members. Her passion for the history of her congregation and for Charleston itself is incredible, and she gave me unprecedented access to shoot video inside the Cumming Street Cemetery. Next, Brother Blake Duke, 32nd Degree, brought me to the Charleston Masonic Center, which is home to numerous lodges and houses unimaginable troves of Masonic history, including the precious minute books of La Candeur Lodge. The documents our historians hope will be the key to unlocking more of the early history of the Supreme Council. When I sat down to talk with Brother Blake, we discussed the book itself and how it came to the Masonic Center. We also discussed how we could best translate and preserve the 2-centuries-old book and what information we hoped it would reveal. After our discussions, Blake handed me the cardboard package, and I gave him my word that we'd get the book translated and preserved to the best of our ability. After wrapping up all my interviews, that night in the hotel, I reviewed all my footage and couldn't help but be in awe of the Masonic artifacts sitting neatly on my luggage. The trip had been a success, and I had enough footage to put a big dent in the documentary. Still, a question nagged at me, and it was a question I was determined to answer. What happened to Colonel John Mitchell? How could such a prominent patriot, Mason, and citizen be buried with no trace?
Like and share this article, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you wish to comment, please leave one, and as a reminder, hit the notifications bell. Any accompanying photographs or citations for this article can be found in the corresponding print edition. The Scottish Rite Journal is published by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. Mark Dreisenstock, 33rd Degree, Managing Editor. Thank you for listening.